All right, welcome everyone. This is a special investor briefing from us here at Alpha Research. Today, we're cutting through all the market hype to give you what you actually need, a clear-eyed look at the seismic shift that's happening in the global economy. For the next 2 weeks, we're mapping out the future of work. This is part one, all about the real economy. Let's dive in.
Right now, the story everyone's telling is pretty simple. AI is the next big gold rush. Every single headline is about what generative AI can do. It can write, it can code, it can create amazing things. And it really does feel like we're on the verge of this incredible new era of productivity. That's the story. But here's the thing, underneath all that excitement, there's a structural trap forming that most of the market is completely ignoring. So let's break this down. It's actually pretty simple. The situation is the hype, right? AI is amazing. The complication, though, is the trap, this powerful economic vortex that's going to separate the winners from the losers with honestly brutal efficiency. So the question for us as investors is, what's the right move? And the only real answer is to understand the entire picture, not just the tech, but the deep structural impact it's going to have on labor, which, let's be honest, is the real engine of the economy.
So, let's start with section one, the reality on the ground. We've got to cut through all the noise and just look at the actual jobs that make up the foundation of our economy as it stands today.
I want you to look closely at this number. Over 14 million people. That's the number of workers in just the 4 biggest low-wage job categories in the US alone. This isn't some small, niche segment. We're talking about a core pillar of the consumer economy. And this is exactly where the first wave of AI automation is taking aim.
And here it is, basically a target list. Retail sales, personal care, fast food, cashiers. These roles are the bedrock of the entire service economy. They're also defined by repetitive tasks, which makes them, well, perfect candidates for automation. The shockwave starts right here. And this brings us to the most crucial dynamic of all. AI is creating this fundamental split in the workforce. On one side, you've got job disappearance, where automation just takes over completely. But on the other side, you've got this productivity explosion, where people, augmented by AI, can produce 10, 50, maybe even 100 times more than before. So the most important question for every company you invest in is this: which side of this divide are they on? Are there people being replaced, or are they being amplified?
Okay, now for section 2, the decade of disruption. Look, this isn't happening overnight. It's more of a phased rollout, and understanding the timeline is absolutely critical if you want to position yourself strategically.
So here's how we see it playing out. Phase 1, happening right now and over the next 1 to 3 years, is the automation of routine office work, all those mind-off tasks, thanks to generative AI. Then, phase 2, within 5 years, it moves into the physical world. Think robotics in retail and logistics. And finally, phase 3, over the next decade, we're going to see the rise of what we call human-centric work. This is the stuff that requires empathy, complex judgment, and trust. In this phase, AI isn't a replacement, it's a super powerful tool. Now for the hard numbers. By 2030, our models are showing that 30%, a full 30% of all tasks currently being done across the economy are at risk of full automation. Just think about that. That's nearly a third of all working hours being either displaced or totally repurposed. But it doesn't stop there. For the jobs that are left, a staggering 60% will see their core functions fundamentally transformed by AI. The takeaway here is simple. No sector, no company, and certainly no investment portfolio is going to be insulated from this shift. It's coming for everyone. And this brings us to the main event, section 3, 3 scenarios for tomorrow. Based on everything we're seeing, we can map out 3 very different futures. These are the strategic forecasts you need to be thinking about and positioning for today. We've actually gone ahead and assigned probabilities to these outcomes. Our base case, sitting at 50%, is what we call the realistic scenario. But, and this is important, there's a very significant 30% chance of a despair scenario. That's a tail risk you simply cannot ignore. The 20% hope scenario, well, that represents a potential upside, but it's definitely less likely. First up, let's talk about despair. This is the worst-case scenario. In this future, AI adoption just explodes, moving so fast that new jobs can't be created quickly enough to replace the old ones, leading to a massive structural crisis in the labor market. And this slide shows you the really dangerous paradox. Unemployment could spike to 8, maybe even 10%, but the economy, at least on paper, is booming. GDP growth is strong. This is what's known as jobless growth. And it's a recipe for extreme wealth concentration and, frankly, profound social instability, a huge source of political and market risk. Next is our base case, the realistic scenario. Now, this path acknowledges a painful transition period. No doubt about it. Unemployment will tick up for a while as old jobs disappear, but just like we've seen throughout history, human ingenuity finds a way. We adapt, and new industries will be born. The key thing to remember here is historical precedent. I mean, consider this. 85% of the jobs that were around just a few years ago were newly created over the last 80 years. They didn't even exist before that. So this scenario is really a bet on that same pattern of creative destruction and human adaptation repeating itself. And finally, there's the hope scenario. In this future, either technical hurdles or some smart regulation slows down the pace of AI deployment. AI evolves into the perfect tool, an assistant that makes us better at our jobs, but without causing all that mass disruption. But, and this is a big but, this stability comes with a major trade-off. By lowering the risk of disruption, we also give up the explosive productivity and economic growth that a rapid AI rollout could bring. This is basically the low-risk, low-return future. So, here we are at Section 4, the takeaway. The fundamental rules of labor, skill, and what creates economic value are being completely rewritten in real time. So the question is pretty simple. What's your next move? These are the questions you absolutely must be asking, not just of yourself, but of every single asset in your portfolio. Which companies are getting rid of obsolete skills and investing in the ones that are just emerging? Which leadership teams actually get that their only real long-term advantage is their people's unique human value? And which ones are truly built to just keep learning and adapting? And that wraps up our analysis of the real economy. But listen, this is only half the story. The impact on jobs and people is creating an even crazier, more volatile reaction in the world of finance. I mean, why does the stock market cheer when unemployment numbers go up? Next week, in Part 2, we are going to dissect the strange, perverse logic of the financial markets, and we'll reveal what we see as the clear formation of a massive AI-driven bubble. You are not going to want to miss it.